Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Marco, currently a first year medical student of Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. So, I managed to convince two of my friends in ASMPH, Bugsy, a second year med student, and Ron, a first year med student, my batch. And we were able to make a tier list video of all the medical school textbooks that we were able to use in our first year. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty long video, so I made sure to put timestamps in the description down below if you do want to hear about certain subjects. So for example, anatomy, physiology, embryology. There is a list of all the books that we talked about, and there is a timestamp for that specific book. So just check out the description, check out the parts you would want. I would recommend listening to the whole thing because it is kind of like a podcast, but then if you want to get in and out, get some value insight on specific books, timestamps in the description. All right, see you guys on the other side.
Prostate fluid. Okay. I'm just practicing.
Seminal vesicle.
Okay, that's my cold open. Anyway, hey guys. Hey guys, my name is Marco, currently first year medical student at Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health. I have two friends with me. First is Aaron Yeager, over here with his long ass hair. And Ron, I couldn't think of any funny name, so I'm just gonna call you Emmanuel Kant of the Philippines. What's up?
Thank you.
Emmanuel Canto.
I had to. Yung Emmanuel sa kanto. I had to ask Bugsy, like, yo, what's his favorite philosopher or something? It's like, probably Kant. So basically, magti-tier list kami ng med school textbooks. So nothing screams nerdy people than making a ranking of all the med school textbooks we use for first year. Oh, by the way, Bugsy is a second year medical student. Ron, batchmate ko. He is our local Anki god. Let's go with Tortora. So principles of anatomy and physiology. I don't want to get Ron's take on this because I've had this book since undergrad. So I already know what I think of it. What do you think, Ron?
I think that amongst all the anatomy books,
Mm.
Tortora is probably the most readable. Like
Really?
people say, "Oh, Moore is so readable." Blah 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 blah. I mean, sure, if you want to read like 4 pages per part of like, oh, this is medial and anteromedial, lateral, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you want to know why it's named that way, and then Tortora has it's named like this because it means blank in Latin. I feel like it's way cooler.
Actually,
That's
too.
my take.
Dude, more is pretty long. So I think this one is okay. Ang gusto ko lang sa more, well, I'll get into it later. Yung clinical applications. Like that section is
The blue
pretty
boxes.
it's pretty
Yeah.
good. So
Mhm.
for me, I'd give this a solid. For me, I'll probably give it a B.
I feel like for me, depending on where in your med journey you're reading Tortora, it can be anywhere from like an A to a B. Because like past like when you're in first year and you need to know things like a lot more in depth, then it's probably like a B since. But if you're like in pre-med or something, or like you want like an introduction to the basic Ana Physio stuff, I feel like there's no single better reference. It's very easy to read, very straightforward. Like I remember like when we had the undergrad class marker where we had to read this, like, I could breeze through whole chapters in a single Starbucks
yeah.
sitting. So
Med school
Yeah,
wise,
that's fair.
I haven't touched it nung med school. I go for more. Magis ako eh, so I go for more. No.
You've matured as a med student.
okay,
Ito.
I have
Maraming
thoughts
thoughts si
here
Ron
too.
dito.
Oh, what is this? Oh my god! Oh god!
What?
Oh my god!
Dude, Ron was such an advocate of this book nung first sem. He was like, the figures, the tables.
I was wrong. I was stupid. I was young. I was foolish. I thought there was an easy way out. There's not. Maybe if you were taking the USMLE,
Yeah.
maybe it's useful. I mean, maganda yung parang it has like a list of all the supplementary sources, like yung mga board and beyond, blah blah blah, all the paid stuff. It's really well aware of what's helpful outside of the main textbooks. But outside of that, I wouldn't recommend reading it until you're actually taking the boards or like USMLE or something.
Yeah, feel ko
Yeah.
honestly, this is a good summary. I saw a really good video. I'll link you guys later. And I'll link it in this video na rin. The people are using it wrong if they use it as a main text. Because everything is summarized. So you can use it as like an outline of what they expect you to know. You still use like main books. So, kunwari kung anatomy, still go with Tortora or something. But then go back to USMLE step 1 for, I guess, checking if you actually know it. Pero siguro, okay, para naman may structure, using ASMPH first year na lang. Because I think, use-wise, it's pretty useful. But I think for first year, Philippines first year, ASM first year, I'm gonna go with a solid C.
I agree with with the points Marco and Ron have raised so far. Well, I would personally put at a D, for no fault of the textbook on its own, but the air of pretension the first aid book carries.
I agree. It's C tier. I agree. It's C tier.
like content wise, I'm okay with a good C tier. Like you see some dudes walking into the fifth floor auditorium. I guess you guys will never walk into the fifth floor auditorium.
Okay,
but,
why you gotta
carrying the
why you gotta go there, bro? Come on, this is a book review.
C content wise, sure. D, the overall book and the experience associated with the book.
Sige. Let's go with another famous one. I think a lot of profs like this one. Anatomy Atlas na netter. Everyone would always say refer to your netters. Honestly, I have never used netter. Go on.
I have a story about netters because hindi ako pre-med, diba? So this is the first time I encountered it. So I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. And I remember the first sem, they were all saying like, oh dude, netters is so useful for anatomy. Oh, you should use it for lab, ganun.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it. So it was neuroanatomy ata. And I was going through netters. And I remember distinctly opening the Canvas test and thinking, what the fuck? The hypothalamus isn't green? And I felt so betrayed. I'm like, what the fuck's Sandila? It's all like beige or gray or like whatever. So yeah, my smooth brain was like, I'm never gonna use netters again.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's why I rarely use it. Kasi pag lectures, they already point where it is. That's usually the figures are colored na. So I want it to be like cadaveric or at least same color. So it's mostly looks na yung difference.
I am hesitant to give any anatomy atlas an S tier because of the thing that Ron just described. Like what you see on the cadaver, like in the patient, will hardly ever resemble what you see on an atlas. But their main utility for me is understanding the spatial relationships. It's not really for more, okay, this is what the hypothalamus looks like. It's more like, okay, in this general area, once you see these general landmarks, these are the general things you find, and you just feel it out and figure out what are the exact parts that are in that area. And for that purpose, I feel like Netter does that better than any atlas. Also, super useful is how Netter presents things in various views. So you see the eggshells, the sagittals, and that further builds the appreciation of it in 3D space. So I'd give it I would give it an A, but if you guys want to give it a B or something, I'll also get that.
Feel ko useful siya pag yun, non-pre-med ka or yung pre-med mo, it's not heavy on anatomy. So I would give it an A kasi it's still good, but it's not, I don't know, for me, it's not your main dapat pag anatomy book. Feel ko kung yung diagram may cadaveric right after, I would put it at a C.
Yeah.
But anyway, so your next one is Junqueira's Basic Histology. Dude, as we go on, I'm starting to realize how nerdy this video idea is, but honestly, I think it's useful. I would have loved this type of video. As someone who took a histology class in undergrad, so one of my favorite books, ewan ko kung unpopular opinion siya, or it's because of the Stockholm Syndrome related to the book, I think Junqueira, honestly, S tier. I like yung explanation, yung formatting na explanations part, plus yung pag-label ng pictures. Tawag dito, yung labels nandun mismo sa baba, sa may figures ganun. Sa Wheaters kasi nakamix text eh. If I want to read what the cell does, I would go to the paragraph. But then if I want to know where it is, I'm just gonna check the labels. Yun yung gripe ko sa Wheaters eh. Pag gagawa ko ng cards, I'd have to read through the paragraph just to see na, oh, that is the testis or that. I don't know why testis yung first thing that came to my mind. But you get my point.
I certainly agree. Like I think Junqueira is all the way from undergrad to med school. It's probably the has to be like in like the top 5 books that I read. Like Marco and I for our histology class in undergrad, like we had to read this cover to cover. And I hate to use this phrase since it's used too often, but it's really high yield. Like
You,
the chapters are just as long as they have to be. Like tell you everything you need to know. There are some really helpful clinical correlates, and like the foundation I was able to build my on with Junqueira on like the histology, the physiology of all the organs really helped um, moving into second year and figuring out the pathophysiology and everything.
um, for me, the S in Junqueiras is for S tier. Cause, kasi ano, I never took histology. Like, so, coming into med school with zero histology background, sobrang, Junqueira is like, if you're stuck on an island, that's the histology book, the basic histology book I would bring. Because parang, the tables are powerful. The quizzes at the end, they're pretty good because they
Oh,
really
yeah.
test you.
it's a mix
And
of
the
recall,
summaries are nice.
and
Mm.
application. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one, probably something super
Uh-huh.
easy. Langman's medical embryology. I don't really have strong opinions about this. I mean, usually naman yung lectures ng embryology, they already suffice. So, I only went to the book kasi medyo hindi ko maintindihan yung lecture.
I remember also reading it to supplement the renal embryo lecture. Like if Vander's and Harper's are the books we have lots of strong opinions on. Like I think I have the least opinions for Langman's. It's a solid C because like it's just so inoffensive but also unimpressive as a book.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
The way you describe it, it's like the white t-shirt na pambahay
Yeah.
na textbook. Like it's okay para, if someone visits at home, hindi ka mahihiya bigla na naka-t-shirt ka lang.
Yeah.
Pero it's not eye-catching or anything.
So if we have the vanilla of ice cream, here
F.
is
F,
here is
F,
the
F, F, F.
How would you describe this? Okay, since clearly we don't like this book.
If Langman's is the vanilla of ice cream, this is like you wanted to get chocolate ice cream, but then like the soft serve machine was out and the guy was desperate,
okay,
and then and they had like a pet dog in the restaurant, so they just like
Okay,
you know what you have to do, Bandai. You know what you have to do.
Mojo. But I think yeah, it's F because I didn't like reading it at all. I don't know. I don't have any other thoughts. It's the chocolate ice cream. No, it's the mint chocolate ice cream of the ice creams.
Harper's is like, I remember someone said, Harper's is like yung classmate mo na mema. Tapos parang, ang dami nilang sasabihin sa class.
Yeah.
Pero parang halos wala siyang na ano. It parang, maybe, there are a lot of details and maybe a smarter person than I would get more from the book.
Yeah.
But I think for most people,
It's a no.
Lippincott
I haven't heard or wala pa akong nakausap na tao na genuinely said Harper's was good. I don't know. Everyone says it in a oh yeah, you have to read Harper's. No one ever says, yeah, you have to read Harper's.
Shit, it melted my brain, dude. Like you exert so much effort to go through a chapter, but you walk out of it like not feeling
Yeah.
like you learned a lot. Learn as much as you should given the effort you could. Some Harper's is like Gojo Satoru's the main expansion. Like every time you try to finish it, like it or like you think you're approaching the end of a section, it seems to extend and say so much more.
Dude, I don't know if we're gonna be so encouraging to the future med students, but also the domain expansion reference would have been funny if I watched Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh.
Tama.
That's for you, Janela. That's for you, Janela. I'm sure you're gonna watch this vlog.
Okay, so on a lighter note, Guyton and Hall Medical Physiology. And honestly, okay, to explain siguro, short chapters, pretty easy read in my opinion. Like I like the flow. It's like Harper's when it talks, ang daming text when it could have just been like, yo, this is it. Tapos ang daming mechanisms na hindi explained apparently. Alam niyo ba, nakwento ko na ba sa inyo? I used to read all Guyton, then I go Berne and Levy, then I go Ganong's.
My God.
Nung neuro.
Wow, dude.
Nung neuro,
What a
phys-
G.
nung
Wow.
What a
neurophysiology,
G.
I would go through all three of them.
You're collecting the Infinity Stone.
A pretty good experience. Like I read it most thoroughly for our gastrointestinal module. And things were clear. All the necessary processes were described. I just have like one like particular sour memory with Guyton. I think it was on deglutition or something. But like it spent like half a page explaining all of the nerves and ganglia involved in swallowing. And I felt like this seems like an unnecessary amount of detail. Niggling experience like that's like what will hold me back from putting it at an S, but
Mhm.
I'd put it like a solid A.
Kabaron, as a self-proclaimed smooth brain, what do you think?
Yes, as 2025 smoothest brain. Guyton it's readable. It's not as verbose, except in some parts. So in terms of that too, palang, you really can't complain. It's like, as far as medical references go, pretty good. Pero is it S? Maybe at times. Pero I think A to
A.
S is
A
a
mas
fair
siya.
assumption.
Atlas of Human Anatomy by Nielsen is a better anatomy atlas compared to both Netter and I like this better than McMinn, to be honest. I like the figures more. As someone who uses dark mode a lot, this book is the definition of dark mode of atlas books.
Tangina.
No, I'm not kidding. Wait lang. I'm not gonna show this on the video na lang. Check this out. McMinn kasi ang white eh. Parang it's too joyful. Green per chapter, ganun. Nah, dark mode. I still use both naman, but then I'd put this at an A. I don't know, have you guys used this pa? Baka ko lang gumamit nito.
Yeah, it's
I've-
first time hearing of it, man. So,
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Jesus, it's
Medyo
yeah.
underground pa pala to.
my undergrad Atlas Anatomy.
Yeah.
Oh, since I'm the only one who used it, then I'll just put it at an A. Here we go with Bugsy ranting about a good biochemistry book. Dude, my laptop is so...
Tapos you scroll up, tapos merong isang tier, Lippincott's.
Lippincott tier. You have S, SS, SSS, Lippincott tier, and then above that is actual Lippincott. Lippincott is like artisanal, individual batch made Godiva ice cream. Like this is probably the most the most concise, but at the same like I mean like concise and like in the sense that it's both brief but says everything it has to, like subject reference for anything in first year. I think like how efficiently it describes all the relevant biochemical processes and the images it uses.
Favorite ko honestly yung diagrams nila because if you... sometimes props would insert like clinical correlates, diba? Then you can actually figure out what part of the mechanism, kasi they would actually put an arrow, then a block sa
Yeah.
arrow, then clinical
Yeah,
correlate na yung speech bubble. Parang it's a very good way to visualize it. Since puro mechanisms, kung like gluconeogenesis or glycogenolysis, ganun, kung deficient ka na tong enzyme na to, wala tong buong pathway na to. Okay, so next book. I'm already laughing just thinking about it. It's Bates. I think I've only used this book once. Yeah, I only used it in neuro physical examination. But I think it's good. I mean, I haven't really read anything else for PE. Yeah, I haven't really read anything else for PE, so I can't really make it relative to something else. Yeah, I want to put it at the B. B for Bates. Gusto ko yung explanation on why you would do it. I think they explain why you would do certain exams. So, doon pa lang
Yeah.
useful. But then, honestly, to read what you're supposed to do, you're right, hindi siya parang useful. I'd rather watch someone perform it.
I feel like Bates, like at our level, is certainly like a B tier. I'd even understand like why some people put it like at a C, but it seems like something that we appreciate when we actually
We
do
do
the
it na.
physical exam
Yeah.
more. Like apart from like doing it on our stuffed toys and stuff. Like when we're like when you have to do an actual patient and like we want to learn more about the principle of what we're doing. I feel like then it can be It can bump up to an A or like
Mm.
a high B, low A. But yeah, like at B is fine. It's still like a few notches below the real S tier physical exam book, the Myers. I feel like
Oh
that's what
yeah,
a
I
PE
didn't
book should be
include the
like. Yeah.
Myers. Okay, so next one, something that I'm sure all of us have used as one. Yeah, I think I said it in the first part of this video. I don't really like the formatting of the book, but honestly, yung variety of
Yeah.
pictures is way better than Junqueira.
Agreed.
And honestly, I think more props use pictures from Wheaters ata. For
I,
pictures, I would give it
yeah.
probably give it a B since I only use it for pictures. Malaking weight rin yung paragraph sa akin because I would want to read what each cell does. It's the peach
It
mango pie of all snacks.
Hey,
Joke lang. Peach mango pie is
peach
S tier.
mango pie
It's
is
S tier.
great.
I'm joking. It's S tier. It's S tier. Sorry, guys.
Uh,
Okay. It's like if you had to choose ice cream toppings. Like Wheaters are like marshmallows. Like
that's
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good.
We try to be relatable because this whole time we're just talking about fucking books.
Well, I was thinking, it's like if you're at an expensive restaurant and you get iced tea, you think, oh, the iced tea, it's really iced tea. It's not like Nestea or something.
Mm.
And then they give you Nestea pa rin. So
This is the
parang,
nesty of fancy restaurants.
yeah, it's like, it's not bad. And it gets the job done, but it's not
Yeah, yeah.
like top tier.
Next one, clinically oriented anatomy. More. I think I'll go first because I have a lot of feelings about this. The joke. I don't. I really don't. It's just. It's a pretty okay anatomy book. It's a lot more detailed. I want to say. I think it supports what Ron says. Na they go unnecessarily long about certain structures, because it's more detailed. But ang favorite ko is the fact that each chapter has like a table that would help summarize certain things. Especially sa pag-anatomy kasi ina-emphasize yung origin, insertion, action, innervation.
Yeah.
Oh, my take before Mr. Stamps gives his is that I have a complicated relationship with Moors. I feel like Tortoras is easier to digest, but if I was stuck on an island, Moors is what I'd bring. Like
Mm.
if you had more time to digest it, I feel like it would be better for you.
I think like as with Marco, the clinical correlates alone are they're surprisingly comprehensive. Like a lot of the at least the non strictly pathological conditions that yeah that you'll discuss later on are things that it mentions, things like Saturday night palsy or like things like pudendal blocks, whatever. So I think by virtue of the clinical correlates alone, like whatever ranking I would give more, I'd give it like a half step or a full step up because of the correlates. But I agree with Ron, like it goes on for too long, but if you really wanted to master the anatomy of the human person, I feel like it's a really solid reference. So I'd probably give it a B because of the correlates, maybe a high B. Like I wouldn't be comfortable calling it like a outright A given the things we have on A.
Pretty short because my take is pretty. Well, honestly, my take is pretty bare as much as this guy's chest. McMinn's fine. Some people prefer it. I definitely know Margie prefers McMinn.
I feel like I derive more utility out of like McMinn versus the other atlases because we still had like actual like lab exams on cadavers.
Mm, yeah.
So it was super useful to have like an additional reference apart from like seeing the cadavers in the lab. Um, but my ranking, like, uh, I I sort of agree with Ron. Like it can either anywhere from A, B, C, depending on what you're trying to study. Because like if you're trying to study like the GI system or the extremities, I think it's a solid. It can go up as high as A because those are like gross structures that are or pretty big structures that you can appreciate from just the pictures. But like if you're using it to study head and neck cadaver anatomy, for example, I'd give it like a C or something because it's uh those things are like still too fine to properly appreciate from like just the pictures of the cadaver. And another gripe I have with it is like how sometimes it doesn't give you a full like 3D view, or it doesn't like take pictures from multiple angles, so your like the 3D image you construct in your head isn't as good as, for example, Netter. But yeah, that's I'd give it a solid uh B per then, like high B, low A.
Actually, yeah, it's a definitely a lot more realistic yung than yung Nielsen na linagay ko kanina. If online med school pa, by the time you're watching this, if you're still online and you wanna feel as if you're looking at a cadaver, I'd say go with McMinn because it definitely is super hectic to look at. So I'd go with a B. Sige, I'll go with a B. You guys, G for a B.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so for another physiology book, ang tagal na nung tagal na usapan natin about Guyton kanina. I think it was 1, 2, 3 about several books since. So next one, Physiology, Berne and Levy. Like I said kanina, I used to read this rin. Nung neurophysiology, that was dumb. Guyton pa rin ako, but the figures I think are okay. Color blue, bias ko blue kasi Ateneo. Yeah, it's definitely longer than Guyton. I vividly remember always going Guyton instead of Berne and Levy kasi mas maiksi sa Guyton.
I actually sort of prefer Guyton more as well. For the same reasons that you raised. Since I usually go to Berne and Levy like after already reviewed stuff from the lecture and from Guyton. So it when I read it it doesn't it isn't as striking. Like I don't really feel like I'm getting all too much, but neither do I feel like I'm wasting my time reading like I like with Harper's, for example. So I don't know. C, D.
Just for the fact ang dami na natin sa B, I put it at a C. Just that reason. What's a good comparison? It's the Langmans for physiology books.
Spot on. You got it on the nose, Marco.
That's right.
Okay, last one. I think divided tayo dito because I think Ron is okay with this book and I am not. I think it's
the only time. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with an E, but the problem is I think it's related to experience rather than the book itself. In fairness, the whole book, 10 chapters, 170 plus pages lang. Then maximum number of pages I remember reading is 21 pages.
I feel like Vander's is an incredibly easy read. It's very straightforward.
Easy read.
There's some like
Joke. I feel insulted by that.
there's some
Joke. Go.
it's a straightforward read. I won't call it.
Okay,
It's straightforward. It's a there are some parts it doesn't explain well, like the counter current shit.
Oh yeah, you count. Actually, I had to go to another resource to really understand countercurrent exchange and countercurrent multiplier. Good point.
Yeah. I feel like it's stuff on phosphorus also wasn't super well explained, and the other electrolytes. But apart from that, a consequence of it being straightforward is I feel not enough was emphasized. Like because like it was all like, okay, so a steady description of all the processes. Wait, which here is actually the one that I super need to know? For those reasons, I would probably give it a. It's not. I'll process of elimination it. Like it's not an S. It's not an F. It's not an E. It's not an A. It's one of B, C, D, C for me maybe.
C for Christ. Spoken like a true med student.
I like Renal. Banders was when I first read Banders, I was like, wow, I never knew you could be so passionate about the kidneys, and I could feel it viscerally. Like, as in, it was pretty much the equivalent of a guy walking up to you and saying, the kidneys are so amazing. It's like a factory. It's like an assembly line, and then the part of it is modified. And I was like, oh, this is so nice. You could feel the passion for the kidneys. And parang I was like, I haven't felt that in other books.
Okay.
And for that alone, I'd give it a solid A.
Mm,
Pero
Okay, that's true. That's true.
fair point.
but your comment about the images, yeah, the images really weren't a good time. But I don't know, for me, and like yeah, I mean weak points nga in discussion, yeah, like for example the counter current exchange, I think it could have been better. But outside of that, it was
Pretty
a pretty
good.
good read.
Honestly,
Pretty fun.
I'll admit, first 5 chapters, sobrang breeze to read. But then, when I started thinking about it, kasi medyo basic yung topics, like renal function, how transporters work. So I don't put much weight to that opinion kasi nga, I already know that. But then, sa chapter 6 to 10, yung main bulk of renal physiology, that was not fun. I think I read chapter 6 to 10 3 to 4 times. I'm not kidding. Because every time I read one chapter, I would just look like I did not pick up any info about it. So you guys think this is a C?
You know,
So A kay Ron, I think it's a D. But then I
Pretty
can
C, pretty C.
ikaw Bugsy, break the tie. Break the tie.
okay, if you called it E, Ron called it A, and so like the midpoint, which is also where I put it, so C, I guess.
Okay, so definitely normal distribution on reviews natin ng books. Alright, anyway, that pretty much ends this video. Thank you, Bugs. Thank you, Ron. May gusto ba kayong i-plug?
I guess like advice for like.
Oh yeah, yun na lang. I think that's way better. What's your advice?
I'd still say like 7 to 8 times out of 10, like the single best reference for a topic is your professor. So they're like I believe lots of med school professors are pretty good lecturers, and moreover they're also pretty approachable if you want to clarify things, if there are things that you want to know more about. And of course, there are times that the lecturers ask you specifically to supplement your knowledge with textbooks, and so like this is when stuff like this will really come in handy. If there's anything here that I recommend to read on top of whatever was in the lecture specifically, it has to be Lippincott. Like Lippincott is such a really good reference that and biochem is such an important thing to have solid foundations on. What else can I recommend? Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like that's it. Oh, at the end of the day, what's the also like whatever reference you choose to use, whether like you stick it out with just the lectures, whether you're a slave to a book, whether you like to use batch notes, or whether you're a Patreon subscriber to Ninja Nerd, I feel like what's most critical is that you just take good notes and make sure to understand whatever reference you're using.
What about you, Ron? Do you have any parting words?
Manuel Sacanto.
From our very own Emmanuel Sacanto.
Ay, tama naman yung sabi ni Stamps. Like, the best reference is the one you understand and the one that you use. Because like, no matter what, to some degree, all the books have their own flavors, and what matters is that you really find a way to genuinely understand it and test yourself about it. Because otherwise, kahit sobrang ganda ng libro mo, if you don't test yourself or if you don't understand, or you just trick yourself into thinking you understand it, walang kwenta din.
I don't really have final words. I think I'll insert my final words after this video. Anyway, thank you so much, Bugsy. Thank you so much, Ron.
Okay, that pretty much ends this whole podcast thing. Hopefully you guys found some sort of insight, even just a golden nugget of information. I can't really think of another tip to give because Bugsy and Ron already gave really such good tips. Maybe the closest thing to a tip I can give is to just base your study routine on what works. If I may use myself as an example, I only read books because so far it's helping. Believe it or not, I do believe that once I see that, you know what, books aren't really helping me out right now, might as well drop it. Anyway, again, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I know it's a pretty long video. If you want the same set of people to be here again, or if you want another set of people and talk about another set of topics, do comment down below what you want us to talk about. I'll try to find the best people for it. If you did like this video, hopefully you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. If you want to see more, subscribe button is over there. There's like a circle, fast lang yan. And then next video's up there and down there. Hopefully see you guys in my next video. Peace.